For 1 week in early February 2017, communities across northern Florida, as well as southern Georgia and Alabama, lived in fear of a killer on the run. It was a case that a local sheriff described as the type that law enforcement fear most, a known killer choosing his victims frequently and randomly. As the killer evaded capture, he appeared to have company. Police tracked the couple's movements across state lines. As they did so, they began to question if his companion was in fact his captive or his accomplice. Hi there, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case is truly a terrifying one. It's a story of peaceful communities terrorized by a violent murderer and multiple lives lost. From the chaos, not all the evidence that emerged was black and white. Let's take a look. The city of Milton is the county seat of Santa Rosa in Florida, just north of Pensacola. It is located near the coast, not far from the Alabama state border. In its early days after the city's founding, Milton was known as an extremely rough town. Judges from Escambia County would sentence criminals to be confined to Milton, earning the city the nickname Helltown by its residents. On January 31st, 2017, it was a sunny day with clear skies over Milton. In the early morning hours, a guest of a local motel, the Emerald Sands Inn, called for security after hearing what they believed had been about 6 gunshots ring out from a nearby room. The front desk clerk knocked on the room door to investigate. After entering the room and viewing briefly the scene inside, she called 911.
Hello, what's going on?
I had a desk call me and tell me that they thought they heard multiple gunshots. So I grabbed my key and I went down there and I knocked 3 different times like I was supposed to. And all I did was put the key in the door, open the door, and I seen her laying halfway in the bathroom, him laying in the bed, and everything's covered in blood.
How many gunshots did you hear?
They said like 5 to 7.
Are they dead?
I don't know, ma'am. I didn't walk in.
When responding officers arrived, they found 2 victims, 30-year-old mother of 3, Alicia Greer, and her good friend, 39-year-old Jacqueline Moore. Both had been gunned down inside the room by the same weapon, likely by a single shooter. It did not take long for detectives to narrow down their main suspect. Upon checking into the room under Jacqueline's name, Alicia had informed motel staff that she was in hiding from a dangerous ex-boyfriend. Alicia's father, Wayne Lane, explained that his daughter had become involved a few months prior with a man named William Billy Boyette. Billy was no stranger to local law enforcement. He had a lengthy, violent history, particularly with women. The grieving father could not explain what his daughter had initially seen in Billy. The two met and began dating the previous Thanksgiving. Friends had warned Alicia that Billy was not the Prince Charming she thought he was. Unfortunately, she had missed the signs that her friends initially saw. 1 week before her death, Billy attacked Alicia in a jealous rage, sending her to the hospital with injuries to her head and neck. According to the police report that she later filed, he accused her of cheating on him while holding her hostage in her home and later stealing her car. She filed multiple charges against him. Fearing retribution, she had gone straight from the hospital to her mother's, then to the Emerald Sands with her good friend Jacqueline. But less than 36 hours after her release from hospital, Billy had tracked her down. The officer's suspicion that Billy Boyette was involved was further confirmed after a witness reported that she saw a man matching his description outside the women's room right before hearing gunshots. Police also learned that his mother had rented a black SUV, which was also spotted at Emerald Sands on the day of the murder. DNA testing inside the room later confirmed that Billy had been there. This was not a whodunit. The only question at this stage was where Billy Boyette had fled.
30-year-old Alicia Greer and 39-year-old Jacqueline Moore. Their bodies were found Tuesday morning inside a motel room at the Emerald Sands Inn. Deputies are looking for William Boyette Jr., a person of interest in the case. He's considered armed and dangerous.
Public outcry over the release of an obviously violent criminal descended upon county officials rapidly and loudly. 44-year-old Billy Boyette had several previous violent criminal accusations, including domestic violence and a stabbing that went unpunished. The state attorney was forced to drop charges when victims wouldn't testify or couldn't be found to stand up to the offender. In June 2015, a woman in Pensacola called 911 and whispered to dispatchers that her boyfriend was trying to kill her. He had strangled her and taken away her phone in an attempt to keep her from seeking help. Somehow, she had managed to place the call, hiding in another room. When Escambia County deputies arrived on scene, the woman directed police to a bedroom where her attacker had passed out with a large kitchen knife in his hand. There, deputies found Billy Boyette. He was booked into the county jail and faced charges of kidnapping, battery, and aggravated assault, to name a few. However, he spent less than a year in custody before he was released when prosecutors were forced to drop the charges against him because his victim could not be found.
It's very frustrating. That problem with prosecuting domestic violence cases and other cases as well depends on the cooperation of not only the victim but the witnesses, and determined that she just, although she'd talked to us, she just was not going to cooperate, wasn't going to show up for court. So it's extremely frustrating.
Billy Boyette had been arrested at least 3 other times in Escambia and Santa Rosa counties in as many years, but never served more than a year in jail for the offenses. Alicia's family believed that her refusal to drop the charges against him was the reason she was killed. In the aftermath of the Emerald Sands murders, another local family was also growing concerned. Reports surfaced that since his most recent release from prison 4 months earlier, Billy had been spending time with another woman, 37-year-old mother of 2, Mary Rice. On the day of the murders, numerous friends began contacting Mary's mother. If she was not one of the victims, they believed that she was in danger. Mary had left her 2 young children in her mother's care. The last text message that Mary had sent was dated February 1st, the day following the murders. She was fine, she said, just taking a short break out of town and would be home by February 3rd. After these 2 days passed with no further communication from Mary, family members filed a missing persons report with the Santa Rosa Sheriff's Office. Police released Mary's photo to the media. They believed that she was in danger and in the company of Billy Boyette. Less than an hour drive southwest of Milton is Lillian, Alabama. Lillian is a small, quiet town. It's the type of area where locals regularly leave their doors unlocked. The community is close-knit. Everyone knows one another. The town's blissful contentment was harshly interrupted on the morning of February 3rd, 2017. Local resident Peggy Phillips Brose was driving home in the early morning after completing her shift as a healthcare worker for the Baptist Hospital. For 30 years, Peggy had worked tirelessly as a respiratory therapist. She was also the caregiver to her disabled husband. Peggy enjoyed her work, but just the day before, she had told her sister, Gina, that she was making plans to retire early. Her son and her daughter-in-law were expecting a baby in 1 week's time, the second grandchild for Peggy. She planned to retire early to spend more time with the growing family. But Peggy did not make it into her front door that morning. She was gunned down in her front yard after parking her white Chrysler in the drive. The rented black SUV driven by Billy Boyette was found dumped in a parking lot hours later, roughly 3 miles from Peggy's home. Surveillance video from the day of the murder showed Billy alongside Mary Rice driving around Lillian, first in the black SUV and later in a white Concorde, Peggy's vehicle. The two were observed driving those same vehicles near her home. Neighbors reported hearing a loud pop before they saw the Concorde and the SUV drive away from the area. Peggy's father-in-law found her lifeless body outside on the ground near where she had parked her car. She died from a gunshot wound to the head. Police believe that Peggy was killed for no other reason than that she was a woman, alone, and had a vehicle that Billy wanted. He continued to flee from authorities in Florida.
It's crazy devastating to know that something like this happened here. Somewhere where you don't, it's like, this is Mayberry to us. This is our Mayberry.
Everybody's a tight-knit community. We all look out for each other. And it's just sad because she had no enemies. She was a loving person, and just, I hope they catch him.
When officers searched the abandoned black SUV, they found a handful of receipts from purchases made by Billy and Mary over the previous few days. Investigators obtained store security camera footage from multiple locations shown on the receipts, effectively tracing their movements since leaving Milton. The footage began to cast doubt on the role being played by Mary Rice. Perhaps she was not an unwilling participant after all. On February 2nd, cameras at a Walmart in Crestview, northeast of Milton, showed Mary purchasing 2 boxes of .38 caliber ammunition, hand warmers, and a sleeping bag. Billy was known at that time to have one gun in his possession, the murder weapon, a .38 caliber handgun. While she was inside the Walmart, the police believed Billy was waiting for her in a car outside. The receipts traced back to additional purchases as well from days earlier. One from a CVS pharmacy in Longwood, dated January 31st, the date of the first 2 murders. Longwood is a 6.5 to 7 hour drive from Milton. It seems that Mary had been on the road with Billy since that date. Security footage captured the two only an hour after Alicia and Jacqueline were killed in their motel room. After viewing this footage, county and state law enforcement stopped referring to Mary as a victim and named her as an accomplice in what had become a multi-state killing spree. These developments came as a shock to her family.
Heart-wrenching to find out that she's even involved in all this stuff. At first I thought they were just friends. Somebody later told me that they had just started dating. Okay. I don't know if that was credible or not. This meaningless, senseless killing and rampaging, no, it's nothing like her. We just want to see her home safe and find out the truth of what's going on.
In Beulah, Florida, Loretta Crocker lived just down the road from her 29-year-old daughter, Kayla. On the mornings she was scheduled to work, Kayla would drive her 18-month-old son to a family member's home before her shift at a nearby McDonald's. It was nearly 6:30 a.m. on February 6th, and Kayla hadn't dropped off her son for her 6 a.m. shift. So Loretta popped down to her daughter's home to check in. She found Kayla's car, a 2006 Cobalt, gone from the driveway. The front door was locked. Loretta went home quickly to retrieve a spare key. When she returned, she entered the house. She found Kayla in the nursery. She had a gunshot wound to the head, but was still breathing. Her hands had been bound in shoelaces, and her midsection tied to a chest of drawers by a makeshift rope to prevent her from leaving the room. Loretta managed to release her daughter from the restraints and spoke to her in an effort to keep her conscious. She was unresponsive. Kayla was rushed to the hospital.
We're obviously not going to release a lot of information on Miss Crocker. She is currently in one of the local hospitals. She did sustain a gunshot wound. The sheriff will speak. There was additionally, she had a 2-year-old son who was also present in the house. He is unharmed. To the best of our knowledge, he did not witness this. He seems to be relatively calm. He's with his grandmother right now. Imagine we don't want to give you all the techniques that we're going to employ here, to find Mr. Boyette and his accomplice. Miss Rice, we believe, is the lady that is with him. So for the family members of Miss Rice, should be concerned about whether or not she's still alive. To the best of our knowledge, she is. I want to assure the public that we've called in all of our available resources. We have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement engaged, U.S. Marshals are engaged, of course ourselves, Santa Rosa, any law enforcement agency in our area, and of course out of state with Baldwin County and the appropriate police departments and Alabama Highway Patrol. Again, we need your assistance. He cannot hide unless someone does not report something that they have seen. We don't care how small your information is or how insignificant you may think it is at the time. Please, please pick up your phone and give us a call. Do not, I repeat, do not attempt to contact or engage with Mr. Boyette. This gentleman has gone far and above, what we normally deem as incorrigible. This gentleman is a killer. He's shown that proclivity time and time again.
Officers found the Concorde owned by Peggy Brose abandoned 3 miles from Kayla's home. It had a flat tire. Later that morning, witnesses reported seeing Mary Rice driving Kayla's Chevy Cobalt. Surveillance photographs from a game camera in a wooded area in Escambia County showed the couple carrying items through the woods. This camera was near to the location in Beulah where Kayla was shot. Based on the items purchased from Walmart and the game camera pictures, it was believed the two were hiding in the wooded area. This posed additional hurdles for law enforcement. Billy Boyette was said to know the woodland like the back of his hand. Law enforcement issued warnings to residents across state lines. Do not travel alone unless absolutely necessary. Lock your doors. Keep your eyes open for Billy and Mary. But if you should see them, do not approach.
It is difficult to speak about this, ladies and gentlemen, because these are the cases that we in law enforcement fear, where we have what is apparently, with the last 2 victims anyway, a random selection. And so therefore, much to our disappointment and much primarily to our frustration, we're chasing a lot of shadows and a lot of rumors. We've asked our citizens from our first press conference, again, to practice situational awareness till such time that we get to Mr. Boyette and Miss Rice in custody. Again, practice some common sense. When you go to work, when you come home, make sure a friend or family member knows where you are, what your expected time of arrival is. Again, these may seem like measures in the extreme, but we're dealing with an extreme situation here. And let me tell you just how extreme. We've received information from more than one source on Mr. Boyette. He is a member and has been a member for a long time of the drug culture. He's known to be a heavy user of spice. These people stay awake for 4, 5, 6 days at a time. So again, he's made this statement to many, many people that he will not be taken alive.
It's probably not surprising that in this atmosphere of fear and uncertainty, social media and misinformation about the case was spiraling out of control. Rumors relating to the couple's movements circulated as facts across Facebook and other platforms. There were reports of additional murders being attributed to the killers. Applications for concealed carry permits across the area skyrocketed.
When you put out information that this murder was as a result of a Craigslist post, which turns out to be completely false, or when you put out information on your different social media platforms and groups that you have formed that Mary Rice was shot and killed or someone has been arrested, then understand something. That requires a reaction from us in law enforcement. And I will tell you that some of these rumors have been fueled by the media.
Kayla Crocker sadly died in the hospital less than 24 hours after she was discovered by her mother. While her family and friends mourned, communities across northern Florida, southern Alabama, and beyond grew fearful. Hundreds of supposed sightings were reported to law enforcement from across the country, nearly all of them unverified. That is, until a call made around 2:30 p.m. on February 7th. Kayla's 2006 Cobalt had been spotted by an anonymous caller in West Point, Georgia. That caller had seen the car at a nearby convenience store and recognized it from news stories as the one that Billy and Mary were last known to be in possession of. That anonymous caller followed the pair to the West Point Motel, where the couple emerged from the vehicle and entered a room. Deputies from the Troup County Sheriff's Office confirmed that the Cobalt was the stolen vehicle. The U.S. Marshals and the Georgia State Patrol SWAT team were called in and surrounded the building. A standoff ensued that lasted approximately 3.5 hours. Police had every reason to believe that Billy was still in possession of the .38 caliber handgun, but it was unknown if he had managed to acquire any further firearms throughout the course of the week. Regardless, law enforcement did not negotiate for a surrender. They had declared their intention to capture Billy Boyette one way or another. Just the day before, the Santa Rosa Sheriff, Bob Johnson, had warned that the end of the line for Billy was either prison or a cemetery. The choice, he stated, was Billy's. As the couple refused to exit willingly, the SWAT team eventually forced their way into the room. As they did so, Mary Rice surrendered. A few moments later, from outside the motel, the sound of a single gunshot rang out. Billy Boyett was found dead in the room with a gunshot wound to the head. His choice was not to go back to prison.
After weeks of searching for them, Billy Boyett, Mary is dead, Mary Rice is in custody, and it all happened here. They weren't coming out, is what he said.
And he even said that at one point they were opening the curtains and waving. I said, is that a form of taunting? And he said he's not going to speculate, but essentially, yes, it could be. He did say that Mary Rice looked very shaken, visibly shaken, when she did come out of the hotel room, and then it was, like you said, after that they did hear a single gunshot in the hotel room.
In the motel room, investigators found more receipts from purchases made by Mary over the course of the week, along with handwritten notes listing the items for purchase which appeared to have been written by Billy. Advertisements for various guns for sale were circled, suggesting that the couple were seeking additional weapons. That Billy had clearly allowed Mary to surrender instead of harming her. Indeed, that he appears to have waited for her to be safely apprehended before firing his weapon, provided further indications to investigators that she was not his captive, but rather his accomplice. When Mary sat down with investigators for questioning, she denied any direct involvement with the murders. Mary told the detectives that after the Emerald Sands murders, Billy came to her home in the middle of the night with a gun. She said he told her to pack a few things and leave with him. Mary recounted that he was bleeding from the head at the time and kept saying it was an accident. Police searched her trailer and found evidence that she had in fact left in a hurry, leaving behind valuable items, haphazardly packing, and failing to arrange for anyone to care for her pets. Her children, however, were already with family. From the moment that Billy arrived at her trailer, covered in blood, she said she had been an unwilling participant. She said he repeatedly told her that he would kill her and knew where her children were, threatening to kill them as well if she disobeyed him. She described the crime spree as Billy hunting people. He had a look like a wild animal. I've never seen anything like it, she told them.
Everything he says is serious. He kept telling me he was going to kill my kids. All he had to do was make a phone call. He was going to kill me if I didn't do what he said. Only by God's grace am I sitting here today.
Mary received medical treatment following her surrender. She had cuts up and down her arms. She further claimed that Billy had forced himself on her earlier that day. A rape kit was performed that could not rule out a non-consensual encounter. Detectives needed to determine the level of her involvement with the murders. In offering these details, Mary's story began showing some holes. She said Billy wouldn't allow her to eat and kept her in the basement of an abandoned building for several days. Between security camera footage and witness accounts, the two seemed to have been together throughout the entire week. Mary further claimed that Billy continuously smoked spice and forced her to roll his drugs, but she said she never consumed any of the substance. Billy's autopsy would later reveal that there were no drugs in his system when he died. After the murder of Peggy Brose in Alabama on February 3rd, authorities located surveillance footage showing a woman getting out of the black SUV in the parking lot near Bauer Road and US 98 and into Peggy's white Chrysler. The woman, they believed, was Mary Rice. She was driving the black SUV alone. Investigators surmised that if she was accompanying Billy Boyett unwillingly, this gave her the perfect opportunity to escape. Detectives from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office, observing the video surveillance of the purchase at Walmart, came to a similar conclusion. In that video, Mary was observed exiting a black Ford Edge while another individual, presumably Billy, waited in the vehicle. Mary appeared to have entered the Walmart alone, taken her time with her purchases, never asked for help from employees or fellow shoppers, then returned to Billy in the SUV.
To your knowledge, did the incident at the Emerald Sands Inn, did that happen before he picked you up?
Yes. Yes. To my knowledge.
All right, where did you go from there?
From there, we were riding, and he made me go into a Walmart and a gun place.
Did he stay out in the car?
No, he was in Walmart. He was watching me, listening.
What did you get at Walmart?
Ammunition, 38.
Okay. How much?
Two boxes.
Okay. Now, at this point, when you were staying in the woods, were you guys still in the SUV, the black SUV, the darker SUV?
Yes. Okay. So, because I gotta get another ride. I gotta get another ride. I don't know where we're going.
Let's go back here in your early morning hours. He's talking about getting another ride.
Yes.
What happens then?
I don't know. He comes back with a white car. He was gone like 5 minutes.
So he goes off with the dark SUV and comes back with a white car?
Yes.
Where did he leave you?
He left me duct taped to a tree. He had somebody with him. He had a gun on me. They're in the back. I didn't even get a good glimpse of who they were or anything. I know they're laying on in the floor, but they got a gun to my side. I had to follow him in this white car to a parking area.
Which car were you driving?
I had to drive the black one. He was in a white one. When we got the black one, the other person stayed with it. He took me by the hair, and I ended up in the white vehicle with him.
This other guy you're talking about, where did he come from?
I don't know, and I've never seen him after.
There was never a third individual spotted by witnesses, nor an indication of another man shown on any of the video footage across multiple locations. Mary continued to deny any involvement in Peggy's death, claiming that she was not at the scene of the murder. Instead, she alleged that Billy duct taped her to a tree in a wooded area on the outskirts of town. Sometime later, Billy returned, driving Peggy's car.
If I were to tell you that numerous people saw you and Billy following the person in the white car to her home, where the white car was taken, it was just you and Billy.
Right.
And then when you guys got to it's actually a food tiger where the parking lot was. There's surveillance of both you guys, Billy getting out of the white car and unloading stuff out of the black car. You getting out of the black car and helping to move stuff from the black car to the white car as well, and then you both getting in the white car and leaving.
Yeah, and you see where he gets mad at me.
So like I said, there was never a third person up there. Okay. Why did you tell me that?
Because I'm scared.
Well, I understand you're scared, and I mean, the truth makes more sense than the story.
Yes, it does.
You know, and
That's the truth.
Okay. Well,
And that's the only thing I know is honest.
thank you for being honest.
I'm scared.
I know you are.
Mary admitted that she was present when Billy shot Kayla Crocker. She entered the home and, at Billy's direction, tied up the young mother with rope. But she maintained that she did not shoot Kayla. Mary insisted that she was outside the house when she heard a gunshot. Mary Rice was indicted on charges of accessory after the fact for the murders of Alicia Greer and Jacqueline Moore. She faced a capital murder charge in Alabama for the death of Peggy Brose and first-degree murder in Florida for the murder of Kayla Crocker.
Mary, do you have anything to say at all? To anyone in Northwest Florida, to your family?
Were you fleeing or were you a hostage? Your side of the story, man?
Mary was extradited from Georgia to Florida to stand trial for the accessory and first-degree charges. In Alabama, where she faced a potential death sentence if convicted, the DA was also keen to seek justice, but that trial would have to wait. Mary remained in custody in Florida under a $750,000 bond. Meanwhile, her defense team prepared to argue that Mary had been a victim for most of her life, a pattern that continued when she crossed paths with Billy Boyett. Investigators had learned that Mary and Billy had first become involved months earlier, exchanging letters as pen pals while Billy was still in prison. After his release, he moved into Mary's trailer in Milton, and the two began a romantic relationship. Mary had a history as an abuse victim, beginning with allegations towards her stepfather when she was only 11 years old. By her teenage years, Mary was battling drug and alcohol dependence. Court records confirm that she was seeking counseling and to leave her family home by the age of 16. Over and over in the past, those that she had trusted had betrayed her. She had been robbed more than once in recent years by close friends whom she had offered a room to stay. One of these robberies had cleared out all of her belongings just before Christmas. Just as Billy was known to the local court system as an offender, Mary was known to appear in court as a victim. To some, Mary's past left her vulnerable and susceptible to manipulation by a man like Billy. To others, it seemed that Mary's life of victimhood had beaten her down, and finally, she had snapped and chosen to become the perpetrator.
First impression is she was scared to death. She was lucky to be alive, very grateful to be alive. She was not a willing participant in anything. She was there because of threats and abuse from Mr. Boyett. She is as much of a victim in this case as anybody. If someone's life is threatened and their family's life is threatened, they might be willing to do things that they wouldn't otherwise do. I look forward to representing Miss Rice. I think she's got a good case.
When the trial commenced in 2018, defense attorney Kenneth Brooks portrayed Mary as paralyzed with fear. Billy had manipulated her for months prior to the spree, he said, giving her things she wanted, like affection, in order to control her.
The evidence will show that she was basically tortured. And if she didn't do exactly what he wanted to do at exactly the time he said to do something, he would use pain to bring her back in line. You'll hear about evidence of cigarette burns on her body, cut wounds on her hands, wounds across her forehead from pistol whipping.
So it started in Florida and it ended in Georgia. And there was a whole lot going on in between. You are going to see traces of Billy and Mary's whereabouts, some of the places they traveled, some of the things that they purchased, and you will see this through receipts that they left behind. She actually went inside Kayla's home and helped tie her up. Kayla Crocker's hands were bound in front of her tightly with some shoelace type strings.
Mary not only bought ammunition, but also outdoor gear, so she and Billy could hide in the woods after the first two murders. While the couple was on the run from police, she made several stops at convenience stores. She refueled the vehicles and bought a road map. These actions, the state argued, directly aided Billy's efforts to evade the police. Mary also arranged to meet with a man who was selling his rifle. She paid cash for the weapon. The exchange took place on his front yard, where the man testified that he could see into the vehicle she had driven to his home. He did not see anyone else waiting while Mary handed over the money and took the gun. She did not ask him for help. Had she done so, he would have protected her.
If this lady had asked you for help or to call 911, would you have helped her?
Of course.
Did you have a firearm on you at that time?
Yes, I did.
And were you on your property?
Yes, I was.
Assistant District Attorney Jensen entered hours of surveillance footage from multiple stores into evidence, showing pieces of it to the jury. Mary Rice can be seen going into a Walmart and browsing cosmetics, in a GNC buying a dietary supplement and signing up for the store's loyalty program. and in a gas station buying Bud Light. Testimony from store employees painted a murky picture, however. Some witnesses testified that they detected nothing unusual about Mary's behavior. Others stated that they thought she could have been under the influence of something, or perhaps had been up all night partying.
She seemed scared.
No, ma'am.
Did she seem like she was in distress?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Reinhardt, if Ms. Rice had passed you a note or asked you for help, would you have helped her?
Yes, I would have.
Receipts found in Kayla's car, as well as the Georgia hotel room, led police to footage from an Alabama Dollar General store where Mary, accompanied by Billy, purchased more supplies. The clerk at that store testified that she could recognize the signs of an abuse victim, and she saw them clearly when serving Mary Rice that day.
How did she appear to you?
Scared.
Did she have any words with you?
No.
Did you try and strike up a conversation with her?
I asked how they were doing, which is part of our customer service. How are you doing today? And he said to me, I just killed my girlfriend.
Okay. What was your response to that?
I thought he was joking.
Okay.
And I said, I've done a lot of things in my life, but I've never done something like that.
Were there any mannerisms that you noticed? Was it matter-of-factly? What was it?
It was a matter-of-factly, yes. It was just straight out. That was just a statement. Like,
your experience with abused women is partly your experience.
Yes, sir.
And you were also with other women who have been abused.
Yes, sir, and I've been through therapy.
Okay. You've seen what abused women look like.
Yes, sir.
When they've hit rock bottom, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge.
She didn't look scared. I mean, I wasn't knowing what the situation was.
Well, that's my question though. So you have this man who just said, I just killed my ex-girlfriend, and he's with a girl who looks scared to you, and there's not some thought there to maybe call 911?
No. I thought he was joking.
But you just said he said it very matter-of-factly.
He did.
And you said he's motioning to her. Was he laughing at all? Was he smiling?
No.
Mary's correspondence with Billy prior to the crime spree played a significant role in establishing the nature of their relationship. Text messages sharing I love yous in the months before the murders, for instance, supported the state's theory that Mary was a willing accomplice who would do anything for the man she loved. Correspondence from Mary to family and friends while in custody after the crime spree have a different tone. She questioned why the public thinks she was with Billy. In a letter dated February 14th, she wrote to a friend, I did meet a true monster. I do not deserve to be locked in this cage. Mary chose not to take the stand to tell her version of events directly to the jury. Her mother and brother testified on her behalf, telling jurors that the Mary they know would not have willingly hurt anyone. The trial lasted 5 days. The jury took just 2 hours to reach their verdict on all charges.
Verdict as to the charge in count 1, we the jury find the defendant Mary Rice guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. As to the charge in count 2, we the jury find the defendant Mary Rice guilty of accessory after the fact to first-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
Mary Rice was promptly sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Kayla Crocker. She is to serve 30 years consecutively for being an accessory after the fact in the murders of Alicia Greer and Jacqueline Moore. Despite the steps taken by officials in Baldwin County, Alabama, to have her extradited to face a murder charge there for the death of Peggy Brose, it seems this will not happen anytime soon. Legal experts say that her appeals process must run its course, or at least 80% of her current sentence, amounting to 30 years, before Florida would release her to face trial in Alabama. The possibility that the state will seek the death penalty there upon her extradition will also slow this process.
One source in Florida told us it could be decades.
and we're hoping that that is wrong. We're doing our due diligence and trying to make sure we get everything done so that we can get her back here as quickly as we can. When this process gets drawn out, as long as it can sometimes, it is not justice for our victims or their families.
In 2019, Mary's first appeal of her convictions in Florida failed. That was the terrible case of William Boyett and Mary Rice. Thank you for watching and supporting our work here, and a special thanks to Natalie Weston for taking the extra step and joining our Members Lounge. I'm Kevin, this is Just Thought Lounge, and I'll see you in the next one.
When the scene plays, tell me who the scream saves. I can hear the cries repeat. Gotta take my time, cause these crimes get deep, but these stories can't hide. Let me find my seat. Kevin, go ahead and settle in. Gotta be selective, doing all the research, keeping it objective. Always been effective, can say he got a knack. Pick of the litter, you see how Newton got his back. Yeah, the content that you need, this could be a new sign. We talk in the comments, they jot in a few lines. Tune in and hit like, love that, it's too kind. Feels like the whole world is online for true crime. Watch him on the run, but it's not a race. Really hard to disappear, poof without a trace. Sherlock Holmes with it, I put you in your place. Got my smoking pipe, only right, I crack another case like I need that feeling that you brought. Who learned the lesson that you taught? To make a killing's what they saw. Found out